we didn't really have this whole financial freedom thing. That's a new term. We
Uh-huh.
just wanted a better financial future. That's all we were thinking about, right? Because we didn't trust the stock market, right? The stock market crushed us, took 6 figures away from us. And
Ouch.
um, ouch, yeah. So we just believed after all of the research that real estate was going to be a better way. But I got to tell you, I was convinced Olivia, who is my better half, was going to tell us, what the heck are you doing? I told you Fresno was risky. We don't know anybody, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I could just hear the fight in my
Yeah,
ear.
yeah.
And we get there, we look at it. It's horrible. The wine bottles, I can still picture it in my mind. And we get back in the car and I say, what do you want to do? I imagine her saying, sell that thing, take a loss.
Right.
She's like, keep going, right? We knew this was a possibility. I'm like, honey, did you see that?
You're listening to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show, a podcast that discusses the intricacies of real estate investing with your host, Marcus E. Maloney. Marcus is a real estate investor best known for being the equity king. He's been awarded that moniker because he and his team find amazing real estate deals. He will be talking with investors who have done some transformational things in the real estate industry. They'll discuss their process, their strategies, and how their investments transform their lives and the communities they invest in. We welcome you to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show.
Hello, We Love Equity Real Estate family. I am excited for our guest today. We are talking to Michael Zuber. Michael Zuber is a buy and hold investor from the Bay Area, but he invests in Fresno, California. So just to give you a little bit of background about Michael, he started investing as a full-time employee, started with single family houses, and this guy is a professional at pivoting. In 2006, he called the market and pivoted from single family residential properties to multifamily. And then just last year in 2019, he pivoted from multifamilies back to single family. So he didn't do his whole portfolio, but he saw something that was up on the horizon, which we are going to dig into on today. So real quick, Michael, how are you today?
Marcus, life is good. No complaints. Having a good time.
Oh, sweet. So tell me, Mike, how did you, we're going to jump right in. How did you get started in real estate?
So I got started in real estate first off at 30, kind of set myself up at 30 years old. I was a full-time employee, Silicon Valley tech worker, married, kid. And, you know, at the time, this was like 2002-ish, I thought I was going to be the next Warren Buffett and trade stocks for my financial freedom. That worked really well for about 18 months. And then suddenly it didn't work at all. And, you know, went from making 6 figures a year day trading, if you remember what that was like, to losing it all and then some. So licked my wounds, felt defeated, felt like a failure, went to a bookstore. Yes, at the time they had bookstores still. And, you know, I was searching for something and I came across the book that you actually have over your left shoulder there, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
All right.
And and it caught my attention. And, you know, their story about those simple condos, and I think it was Oregon and in Honolulu. It's like, yeah, I could do that. Tell me more, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad does a pretty good job of changing your mindset and introducing concepts, but it doesn't tell you how to do anything.
Right.
So I spent the next year or so reading every book I could find, literally had bookshelves full of stuff, and realized that I was going to take a shot at being a landlord, which is really unusual, right? Nobody in my family ever had any money. Nobody ever owned a rental property. It was really foreign to us. We tried doing it in the Bay Area, which didn't make sense in 2002 and definitely doesn't make sense in 2020. So we had to find another market. As you said in the introduction, we found Fresno, California, which is 2.5 hours away from me. And then we bought that first house on Norris Drive for $107,000 that rented for $1,100 back in December of 2002. And that was kind of our journey. And I really had no grand plans. I wish I could tell you I had a grand plan. I was focused on getting the first one. And once I got the first one, I was like, what do we do to get the second one? And you know, that's what we were doing up until 2006. We had 7 properties, which meant we had 6 houses and 1 duplex acquired. We didn't have a lot of money. We were basically putting 10% down on stuff. Then we did some cash out refis. And, we built those first seven properties on $40,000, which is all we ever had when we started this. So that's what we did from kind of 2002 to 2006 is we just kept focusing on the next one. And then the journey gets fun.
So starting with that $40,000, and I know some people may say, well, that's a lot of money to get started with, but in real estate, I mean, honestly, it's not. I mean, because that can be one down payment, two down payments, if you're going a conventional route like you were doing, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then you hit that wall, you were at seven units, and it's like, okay, what do we do from here? But before we get there, why did you pick Fresno over any other city in California?
Yeah, so we really quickly had to understand if we were comfortable getting on a plane. So my day job at the time was traveling around the world, managing sales teams. So the last thing I wanted to do was get on another plane to go see my properties, which basically excluded out-of-state investing for us back in 2002. It was a pure choice, pure quality of life. I was comfortable driving, but I wasn't comfortable flying any more than I already had to. I hate it. I hate flying. So we basically pulled out a California map after wasting a year of our life looking in the Bay Area, and we started drawing circles. And Fresno was the first market of size. It was about 500,000 people at the time, which was a requirement for us. And it met the very simplistic 1% rule, which was something the books talked about.
Yep.
So that's what we did. That was it. And again, people need to realize I knew no one, didn't know any real estate brokers. I drove through Fresno once on a family trip to Yosemite. Never spent the night there. Haven't spent the night there in 20 years. But it made sense, right? Live where you want, but invest where the numbers make sense. And then we never left, because I get that question a lot. Okay, you start there, I get it, but why'd you never leave? Kind of the same reason. I suppose I'm a control freak. I want to be able to go see my properties, and I hate flying. I do believe you need to go see your properties. And these people that tell me they're investing out of state and they never see their stuff scares me. I mean, I think that's frightening. I think that's a recipe for negative surprises.
And I agree with you on that, because I do invest out of state. I invest in the Chicago market, but that's where I'm from. So I know the landscape very well. But just like you said, I have boots on the ground. And then I still periodically say, you know what, let me get on a plane. Let me fly over there and see exactly what's going on, because things in neighborhoods can shift pretty quickly. I mean, look at what's going on in the world today. If you're not having eyes on your property, you never know, what could happen with that property. So you started with this $40,000. You found that property. How did you find that Norris property?
So again, I wish I had a great answer. It was basically what today would be called realtor.com.
Okay.
We basically found a zip code that we liked, and I looked at that zip code every day for months, and finally found a property listed. You can actually look it up. It's 1818 Norris Drive East 93703. We bought it for 107. It rented for 1100. And I mean, it wasn't back in 2002. There wasn't this thing of wholesaling or off market or anything of that nature. I'm not a realtor, so I have no special access. I didn't even know anybody in Fresno.
Okay.
It's just I felt good about, hey, I could get 1100. That's what my homework tells me. And we found a realtor, because I'm not a realtor, so I had to find somebody to write it up. We drove around, we looked at a bunch of houses, and this was the only one available. 2002 December, I think it was like December 11th or 12th. The market was picking up, and it was the only thing available. So we wrote a full price offer. And again, I didn't know any different. I wrote a full price offer. I didn't know any different. I put 20% down. I didn't know. I mean, we jumped in.
Right. And the thing, and the reason why I'm digging into this is because a lot of people have, these roadblocks that they set in their minds and saying, well, I don't know anybody in Fresno. I don't know Fresno. I don't have a realtor there. I don't know if I have enough money. But you said, you know what, despite all of that, this is the area I want to invest in. I'm not sure if it's the right area, but I'm going to jump in and I'm going to give it a try. And 20 years later or 18 years later, you're still making money there in Fresno.
Yes, sir.
So that's a testament to, your tenacity and your mindset to just go out there and get it done. So you did that Norris property. Did you use a property manager starting out?
Yeah, day one. Again, my job took me all over the world. I could very easily be in 3 different countries in a week. So I've had a property manager since day one, paid the full 10% in the beginning. We don't pay anywhere near that now, but we did. And we just had to keep it in the calculation, right? We had to bring that into our formula to make sure that we could afford a property manager because we had no time, right? We were
Hmm.
both very busy professionals. We were raising a daughter. And again, we chose a market 2.5 hours away. The last thing we could do is field tenant calls and all of
Right.
that.
Exactly. Exactly. So how did you find this property manager? Again, you don't know Fresno. You don't know anyone in Fresno.
Yeah, don't know, made lots of mistakes. We fired the first 5.
Okay.
We fired the first 5, right? So we found one, didn't work out. Found one, didn't work out. You know, one thing I'm comfortable with is managing people in relationships. So right from the very beginning, we were managing that as a key relationship. And as somebody who invests that far away, the property manager is the most important, more important
Yeah.
than an agent, more important than a bank. It's the most important thing. And I would just set expectations and manage to expectations. Everybody got a chance to make one mistake, but never 2.
Yep.
So we fired the first 5, and it's painful. Even if we only had 1 or 2 properties, it was painful to fire a property manager because they weren't happy, they were upset, and then you had
Hmm.
to get a new one. And but yeah, we would manage those relationships. And people are people, right? Somebody would do a great job for 9 or 10 months, and then suddenly they wouldn't. And again, this is part of having it close by, because it was amazing what would happen. We would tell them we're coming, right? Because we always had to go on the weekend, right?
Right.
So we'd tell them we're coming Saturday the 2nd. Everything would be beautiful. Then we'd
Uh-huh.
surprise them on Saturday the 9th and not tell them. And it would be like, what the freaking heck just happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started doing lots of drive-by inspections and not telling them we're coming. And we were most often disappointed. And that
Okay.
caused a lot of consternation.
And that's a good thing to do, because sometimes property managers can get pretty comfortable,
Mhm.
especially if they know that the owner is out of state, or 2.5 hours away in your case.
For sure.
They'll say, okay, well, everything is going great, rent is being paid, that's all that matters. And for an owner that really manages their properties, that's not all that matters. The appearance is a big key in order to
Mhm.
keep your tenants happy. So great. So now, did your property managers find that initial tenant for you, and how did that go
Yeah.
with that tenant screening?
So I'm glad you asked. So our first tenant experience, everything was done correctly. Even looking back now and going through the story that you're about to hear, I'm still convinced everything was done right. Credit checks, work experience, references, income verification, credit scores, all was done correctly. Unfortunately, there was one thing missing on their application, which I've never seen on an application. And that is, are you going to get divorced in a couple of weeks?
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so this couple moves in, pays their first month rent, pays their full deposit, both working, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 weeks in, literally 2 weeks in, the wife takes off. Don't know really what
Hmm.
happens, other than we never hear from her again. She goes out of state and they're getting a divorce. Um, and the husband clearly did not like that. The husband goes on to become what I call a professional drinker, drinks all day, and never pays rent again. And, I'm in
Oh,
California, right? This
wow.
is my first
Yeah.
experience. So I had to spend $1,000 to get a lawyer, an attorney. I have to, 2 months go by with no rent. We finally get into our property about day 75 or 80 after no rent. And we see wine bottles literally stuck in the drywall, where he's
Oh,
making like a wine rack out of my drywall. So our first experience, right? We buy a house for 107. We spend 8 to 10 grand fixing it up. We get first month rent deposit. They leave. Basically 90 days later, we're spending another 15 grand fixing it up. And that was a horrible experience. I'm
I-
shocked we kept going.
and that was going to be one of my questions, was, with that horrible experience, initial experience coming out the gate, why didn't you stop?
Because our why. We knew that the only way to get any kind of financial freedom, really the only one, we didn't really have this whole financial freedom thing. That's a new term. We
Uh-huh.
just wanted a better financial future. That's all we were thinking about, right? Because we didn't trust the stock market, right? The stock market crushed us, took 6 figures away from us. And
Ouch.
um, ouch, yeah. So we just believed, after all of the research, that real estate was going to be a better way. But I got to tell you, I was convinced Olivia, who is my better half, was going to tell us, what the heck are you doing? I told you Fresno was risky. We don't know anybody, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I could just hear the fight in my ear.
Yeah.
And we get there, we look at it. It's horrible. The wine bottles, I can still picture it in my mind. And we get back in the car and I say, what do you want to do? I imagine her saying, sell that thing, take a loss.
Right.
She's like, keep going. Right. We knew this was a possibility. I'm like, honey, did you see that? No, this is what we're going to do. So my wife has been on board since day one. I give her full credit. She gets credit every time I tell this story. And the good news about that house is it goes on to be one of our best investments. The next tenant moved in, never missed a payment. We ended up selling that place at the peak of the market in 06 for $265,000. So
Wow.
It went up $150,000 in 4 years.
Wow.
And then we moved that equity into an apartment building that we still own today.
Okay.
So while that first tenant was horrible, and I wish that on no one, the story of being a buy and hold landlord is pretty cool. We made $150,000 on the house. We moved the equity tax-free thanks to the lovely 1031 exchange. We have huge cash flow in the apartments that we own today because of that. And, it's a great story when you tell the full story, but boy, that first chapter was rough.
So Mike, you really went over a lot of information there. For one, you had a supportive partner. Your wife was supportive, of you. Not everyone have that. And guys, if you're out there and you want to get into real estate, talk it over with your partner. Try and get some feedback and make sure that you and her, or you and him are on the same page, and making sure you guys are doing this jointly and together. Because like you said, she could have just said, you know what, okay, Mike, I let you try this,
Yeah.
You tried it, you failed, and now let's call it quits. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you also said that you didn't give up. You kept going. You found the next tenant. And that was one of the things that I found challenging when I bought a duplex. Was it was already rented. It was leased up. And one of the tenants was just hell. And it was just trying to get this tenant, to act right. And then it was just like, you know what? I can't do it. Let's just move on, to the next person. And because of that success and that first failure, you were able to have success on the back end. So tell me about the mindset shift going from single family to multifamily, because again, this is your first house. And I know you've done other homes in between that, but how did you shift from single family to multifamily?
That's a very good question. So the answer is I kept engaging myself. I kept learning. So I went to a real estate meetup, right? It wasn't called that in 06, but that's what they're called today. And I heard a presenter speak about small multifamilies. I had never looked at it, right? We owned a duplex, but it was really two houses on one huge city lot. So it's not even like a connected duplexes. So I say I owned 8 houses, which is what we had. And that's all I ever looked at, because that's all I ever lived in, right? I didn't know any different. I thought every house was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage house. I mean, what do I know, right?
Yeah.
So this individual gets up there, starts talking about small multifamilies, and quickly understand that single family homes are getting really expensive, right? So just think about it, right? I already said the numbers, but we bought Norris Drive for 107. In 2006, before we sold it, we thought it was worth between 270 and 280. We do end up selling it for like 264 or something. But here's the rub. It rented for 1,100. So it cash flows at 107. There's no way in hell it cash flows at 260, right?
Exactly.
So we're like, how do we buy the 9th house? And in 2006, we're like, we can't, because unless we're going to put 50% down, nothing cash flows.
Right. It makes no sense.
Right. People around us are going nuts, and they're buying for appreciation and all this other nonsense with bad loans. And my stupid accounting brain wouldn't let me do a bad deal, right? I don't want negative cash flow. I don't want to bet on appreciation. That is too much like my stock market pain that I had in 02, right? Bet on appreciation, trade options, always bet on the upside, and then bam. So
get hit.
I have that scar. I'm like pointing, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not betting on appreciation. And then this guy talks about small multifamilies, and I go, shoot, I thought only billionaires own apartments. What the hell? So we look at a 5-unit apartment building we still own today. It's on Vassar. It's 5 1-bedroom, 1-bath units, all connected in a row. Peaked roof, separate garages, all that.
Okay.
So we end up getting in contract on these 5 units for $223,000.
Wow.
At the time, they rented for $600 each, so it's like $3,000 a month. Plus, they had some laundry income, which we'll ignore for now. But $3,000. But think about that. We sold a house for $264 that rented for $1,100. We bought a 5-unit building for $223 that rented for $3,000.
It's a
right?
no-brainer.
Some is good, more is better, right?
Yep.
So we very quickly did 1031 exchanges out of all of our houses, and we went from 8 units to 80.
So Mike, before we gloss over that, for those who don't know, explain what a 1031 exchange is for us.
Yeah, so a 1031 exchange, as someone who's been through them, is basically where you can do what's called a like-kind exchange, where you take a rental property, which is in this case a house, and you trade the equity without paying the IRS, no capital gains, no depreciation, recapture, all of that into the next investment, which for us was the 5-unit building. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Read about it online. I'm not an expert, but we could not touch the proceeds.
Right.
That's the key in an exchange is we sold the house, equity goes and sits it with an intermediary. We identify a property within the first 45 days, and then we have to close on that in the first 6 months. And that's what we did. We did that 7 or 8 times.
Yep. So guys, basically what he said in 1031 exchanges, he sold his rental, his single family house, put the money in an intermediary's hands where they can't touch the proceeds. And then they found another property, which is the 5-unit building, took the money from the sale of the single family and used that money to buy the 5-unit. And they didn't have to pay the IRS any taxes on that proceeds from the single family. So very smart, very key. So your accounting brain is very smart, Mike, not dumb. So that worked into your favor. And not only that, you went from one house, one tenant to now having 5 units, 5 tenants, tripling basically the income off of that same amount of money.
Yes, sir.
Very, very smart. Very smart. So tell me about these 1-bedroom, 1-baths, because I'm a firm believer, and I think it's just something with me. I'm scared of 1-bedroom, 1-baths because sometimes, you can get transient people. What I mean by transient people is they stay for a little bit and then they move on because it's 1-bedroom, bath. And it's not because of just their ideology, but families grow. I grew up, and when I was a bachelor, I was in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
For sure.
Found my wife, and then it was immediately, this place is too small.
Got to go.
Yeah. So tell me about that. What sold you on these?
So absolutely right. So again, we've owned these now, I want to do the math, 14 years. So the first 4 or 5 years, I would say that's very true, very transient. I would say the average was like 18 months. I'm going from memory, so it'll be close to that. But something we did as we found the property manager that we ultimately settled on is we started looking for retirees, right? We started looking for folks that were retired. So, that became our niche. We started looking for those kind of folks. And sometimes that means you got to put in wheelchair ramps and these other things. But those are the things we looked for. We dressed up the outside so they have seating areas and the like. So those are the things that we've done as we started looking for retirees where it makes sense. And that whole community now I would say the average age of those 5 tenants is probably 70, 71.
Okay.
So they've been there quite a while. I think the average tenure now is like 4.5 years.
That's good.
We know ultimately that, life happens. So we'll just move people in and out. But yeah, there are a segment of the tenant population that don't move, that aren't transient. And what we found was retirees
Absolutely
are a good niche.
You're spot on. That was very, very smart. I don't know if you guys did that strategically, but that was smart because once you get the retiree population, they're not looking to move every year because they're looking at can't hire movers, can't do hauling trucks and everything like that. Once they get there, they're settled and they'll stay there for 10, 12, 15, 20 years. So that's,
Yep.
As long as life, is extended to them, they'll stay there. Okay.
Yeah, that's us.
Very good. So now you said that you guys have over 80 units. So tell me,
Yeah.
how did you guys expand so quickly?
Yes. So we spent, in 2006, we did all these 1031 exchanges. Oh, sorry. Let me try to shut this off.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So 2006, somebody wants to get a hold of me.
Hotline.
I guess. Yeah, let's just close that. Now they can't call me. So again, 2006, we do a bunch of 1031 exchanges. We did that for about a year. So we went, we got a 5 and then a 10 and a 13 and another 10, and we went to 80 units. So that's what we did. So no new capital, right? No new cash.
Okay.
Right at the peak of the market, we went into multifamily. That's all now commercial financing versus residential, which was a whole nother ball of wax for us. But yeah, that was a good time. And of course the market collapses from there, right?
Yep.
07, 08, 09, 2010. The market just falls off a cliff. And what we do is we first take a pause because we don't really know what's going on. It's our first recession, right? Our first investing recession. And then what we do is we start getting aggressive. We want to go back and buy houses. Because again, that house we sold at 264, it retrades at 75 grand.
Wow.
Right. The person who bought it lost it, and it goes foreclosure and then trades at 75 grand. So that's how much housing, single family homes collapsed in Fresno, California, right? It lost 70% of value. So we start buying again, right? We buy on the way down, right? We buy another house at 140 and then 130 and 110 and all of that. But we get the first couple of done with banks. Again, banks were still lending very early on in the collapse, but then they stopped, right? I remember trying to go get a deal done when we had an 800 credit score, 7-figure net worth, 6-figure income, and the bank told us no, right? They said, you're part of the problem. Real estate investors are bad. And that was an eye-opening experience. So we didn't know what to do, right? We're still new to this. We go to, again, a meetup. Somebody talks about hard money. So we get some hard money, which was very expensive, like 12%, 60% LTV of purchase price, not value, but it allows us to keep buying. So we do that.
So Mike, real quick. So tell me what hard money is for those who don't know.
Basically, hard money is where you go to someone who has their own pool of capital and they're willing to put it at, it's basically a person or a company, but usually it's a person that wants to invest capital in real estate like a bank, but they charge really, really high rates, hence hard. Like, for example, a bank at the time might have charged 5.5 or 6% on 30-year money. The hard money lender was charging 12%.
Okay.
Right? They wanted 60% of purchase price. They had 3 points where a bank might charge 1 point up front. They want 3. Right? It's just really, really expensive money. But anytime you can buy an asset that's on sale with some kind of leverage, even if it's just 60%, it means you can buy more.
Yep. And
we wanted to be aggressive. So we did that a few times. And then we ultimately found private money. We kept telling people what we were doing. And we did 30 or 40 transactions in 2010 with private money. Just friends and family were getting nothing in the money markets and in bank accounts. And we paid them 10%. We paid them 10% interest. So we kept buying and buying when everybody was, the best year to buy for us was 2010. Nope. Everybody was scared of real estate. It was ugly. And we were buying houses for, we bought stuff under 40 grand. That was a full on house.
So you went from you and your wife's own money to trying hard money, and then you settled with private money. And private money is the best money because it's not your money and it's not the expensive rate of hard money. So by doing that, you just basically was sharing what you and your wife were doing, and then people said, hey, you know what? Instead of me having my money sitting in this IRA or 401k or in a savings account, let me give it to Mike and his wife, and you guys made money for them. Sounds great.
Yeah, we paid them 10%. We paid them double digits. And again, the key to raising private money, and I didn't know this at the time, we were just documenting what we were doing. one of the things I've always liked to do is I hate to fly, like I said earlier, but something I had to be busy on an airplane. So I would just write up all our deals. Just, hey, we did this, we found this, blah, blah, blah. That became a blog for us. And that blog, helped us raise millions of dollars in private money just because people would see over time that we kept at it. We never asked for private money. People came to us after doing that blog for like 6 months. And today we're doing private money again, and it's all off YouTube. So it's just document what you're doing. Telling people what you're doing can help.
And I agree. I tell people, you have to share your successes and your failures. And like you said, it's just documenting. You're just really making a journal or a log of, what you've done. That way people can follow, your track record. And then eventually people are going to say, wow, look at what Mike is doing. You know what? How can I be a part? How can I help, or how can I make money like Mike? And then the pitch is easy for you. It's, hey, you see what I've been doing. This is what I can do. We're just going to continue to do what we've already been doing, but with private money.
Well said, Marcus.
Perfect. So you guys use the private money to scale. How are you finding these properties? Because sometimes it's hard to find good deals.
Yeah, this is gonna drive your audience crazy, but we were finding diamonds, bricks of gold, right in the MLS, realtor.com. I never bought anything other than out of the MLS. Okay. Never direct mail, never driving for dollars, none of that stuff. We bought one house on auction.com right at the peak of the crisis. And then one bank came to us directly because we were remodeling the building next door. But other than that, everything we bought, anybody in the world could have got because it was just in the MLS. In 2010, it was not hard. Any price accepted, and they were dropping prices every Friday, right? They would drop prices every Friday.
Yeah, to try and make it hot for the weekend and try and get people to come out and look, absolutely. And that's what I tell people. You have to be prepared and position yourself for the next go around. Will it be as bad as it was in 2008? Who knows, but you want to be prepared coming up. So Mike, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break real quick, hear a word from our sponsors, and then we're going to come back. Okay, Mike.
PropStream is the industry's #1 tool for locating distressed properties and connecting with highly motivated sellers. With 100% coverage across the U.S., PropStream provides a deep dive into any property's specific details, making it easy to generate lists of distressed properties and contact to the owners. No other product or service can compare. Gain access to MLS property details like expired listings. You can pull accurate comps, even sale prices in non-disclosure states. This information is typically reserved for licensed real estate professionals, but is also available to you in PropStream. Gain access to unlimited nationwide property search, comparable home sales, targeted marketing lists, and owner contact lookup, built-in marketing tools, hundreds of filters to search and sort leads. Start your free 7-day trial now by going to proud.propstreampro.com/WeLoveEquity.
Okay, Mike, we're back. So tell me, out of all of these deals that you've done, what was your most successful transaction?
I guess most people like to talk about buying an 18-unit building for nothing down. Most people like to talk about that.
Wow.
So in 2010, right at the depth of the crisis, we were introduced to an older gentleman who had sold a property. So this was 2010. So he sold this property in 2005 or 2006 for $1.44 million. He got, I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's assume he got like $250K down, and then he carried the paper, right? So he owner financed it for someone.
Yep.
And what quickly happened is obviously 2006 was right near the peak. So he had good time to sell it. But unfortunately, the recession ensued. The person who had borrowed that money, right, private financing, he was the seller financing, started missing payments, started making excuses. The property kept getting worse and worse and worse. And this poor gentleman was, I don't know, probably 75 or 77 at the time.
Wow.
And lived out of the area, right? When he owned it, he lived there, he moved out, he sold his portfolio, and this was like the last big unit he owned. And ultimately, he found us because we were doing deals in the area, and he said, hey, I got to foreclose on this. Would you take it over? And I said, well, if the numbers make
If
sense,
the
of
numbers
course.
are right.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
what do I say? So he says, well, what do you think it's going to take? And I said, well, you know what? Let's go through the building together. So he drove up from LA, right? He was down in Southern
Okay.
California. It might've been San Diego. I just remember him driving up, and we go through it together, and it was probably the most disgusting things I've ever seen. I mean, one unit had dog feces everywhere.
Oh, wow.
One of the units had clearly a leak from the ceiling. I mean, again, I've seen some pretty rough stuff during the crash. It's the worst thing I'd ever seen. So we get out of that. We go to have lunch, and he goes, I got a problem. I go, you got a big problem. I don't know what you're talking about. We got a problem. And he says, I live too far away. I can't take care of this. I don't want this problem. I've already started the foreclosure process. I'm gonna own this again shortly, and I want you to buy it. What's it gonna take? And I'm like, well, without having my contractor go through this, there's probably $50,000 in immediate, like day one investments.
Yep.
More than half those tenants got to go.
Gotta go.
If not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a problem, right? So that's what I see. And I said, I'm not comfortable talking about doing a deal right now. I have to think about this, right? Because we're literally like 60 minutes after, like, how do I wash up from going through that place?
Exactly.
I'm afraid about what's crawling on my clothes right now, right? So we go back. I reach out to him the next day or so, and I say, okay, I have the capital to do the investments that you and I both know this needs. The market's crazy right now. We're near the depth, right? He sold at the peak. Now we're really near the bottom. So I let him know that I thought the building was worth 50% of what he sold it for last time, $700,000. He agreed. So price wasn't the problem.
Gotcha.
What he wanted was, he wanted out, and I wanted a long term, right? I wanted 10 years. He wanted 5. Because again, he was 77 or something at the time. And he's like, I don't want this any longer than I need it. And he wanted shorter. I'm like, dude, I can't, I'm going to need 18 months just to make this thing look right. It's going to take me 6 months to get out. So I'm not doing anything less than 5 years. So what we agreed to basically is 5 years. So I gave him that. We didn't have any payments for the first 12 months. So no payments, right? I escrowed $50,000. So he would see that improvement, because that was his big thing, right? I'm going to sell it to you. You're going to milk it. You're not going to pay me for 12 months. How do I trust you? So I said, okay, let's escrow the money, and you'll get a report monthly. And I ended up sending him pictures just to keep him in the loop, right? So we ultimately agreed on a payment that was about 20% of what rents would be once done. So it was very easy for me to carry once we did that investment. And then after about 3.5 or 4 years, we went to a bank and refied it, and it appraised for like 135 or something like that. We cashed him out. He was very happy. And we replaced all our capital and then some. So yeah, we got a building for nothing down just by communicating with the seller.
And you said so much in that piece, Mike. One of the main things is, because of your reputation in that area, he knew to come to you. You didn't go out, like you said, you didn't have to do direct mailers. You didn't have to do any of that. He came directly to you. And then also, you understood your numbers, what it was going to take in order to get this done. And you was creative, with him, saying, hey, I have the capital to make the major repairs. I'll put this in the escrow account so you can see it. That way, everything is being communicated openly. So you guys did that deal. How much was the repairs total, if you can remember?
We ended up spending about $110,000, because if we were going to do it, we were going to do it right. And we wanted to do it so the investments wouldn't have to come back. So instead of patching the roof, we replaced it. Instead of patching the parking lot, we repaved it. So we ended up spending about $110,000, and we still own the apartment building today. Rents are up from where we bought it, obviously, and it cash flows really well. We have cheap, we have financing now at, I think it's like 4 1/8 or something. So it's a core element of our portfolio that we likely won't ever sell.
So let me ask you, the money for the repairs, was that from your private money lenders?
No,
or was it something you guys had set aside already?
that was capital we had set aside from cash out refinances.
Okay, gotcha. So you had that money on hand in order to do the repairs. Okay, so then you go and you refinance this thing and it's worth 1.3. I know you were happy. You were excited.
Yes, sir.
What did you guys do? Did you cash out on that refi, or did you take some out and continue to build a portfolio? What did you do with that extra money?
Yeah, we have never. So our journey of 15 years was one of sacrifice, living below our means. So yes, we did take some cash out. We brought the LTV up to about 60 or 65%, which meant we had a 6-figure cash out. And we just bought more stuff. We bought, I don't remember exactly, we bought 3 or 4 other properties with that we still own today. But yeah, when you are on that path of building momentum, the last thing you should do is, let's take this 10 or 20 grand and go get a new car, or go take a crazy vacation. Because we still had, we're at year, I don't know, 7 or 8 in our journey, which took 15 years. So we just kept moving forward. I mean, that's, people call us lucky and all this stuff. No, man, we sacrificed for 15 years. We understood our needs and wants. We lived so far below our means. It's funny to think about now. I remember crying on the way home after going to another stupid housewarming party with one of our friends, buying $1 million house, and we're freaking in a condo. And I remember, literally pulling over and having to just let it go, because I didn't know if we were doing the right things. Right, 10 years into this journey, we're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right? Are we doing it? Are we wrong? Did we make a mistake?
Yep. And that's one of the things that we all have to go through, getting started, because you look at everyone else at times and it seems like they're on an accelerated track. Everything is going fast for them. They have a good job. They're getting, everything that they want in life. And you're like, okay, am I doing the right thing? But with persistence and tenacity, look where you are now compared to where you were just 10 years ago. That's a big step going from 8, well, let's just say 15 years ago. That's a big step going from 0 units to, how many do you have now? 175? That's a lot.
Yeah, we're right around that number. Yeah.
That's a lot, So who can tell you that they're buying 17 units, on average a year? Not many people can say that,
That's true.
Mike, you're doing a great job, man. So give yourself, a little credit. It's okay to pat yourself on the back every now and then.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Marcus.
So tell me, you got the hub, man. Tell me a little bit about the hub.
Yeah, so the hub is an office building in Fresno, which is where my heart is. It's where our net worth is. It's where all our rentals are, and it's something I created after we retired, right after we left our W-2 job. And I really wanted to create it because I want to give back, right? So think about, now we're into this nearly 20 years. We wrote a book. We have a growing YouTube channel. I get asked all the time for help, advice, coffee, lunch, dinner, yada, 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 right? So I knew I wanted to do something, and I knew I wanted to plant roots in Fresno. So I found an old dentist office right on a great street called, it's on Van Ness, right by the City College. And I said, this is going to be my anchor. So it has 7 small offices in it. And I wanted to staff that with people that are go-givers, that give back.
Okay.
And because I wanted to have confidence that I could take my growing network of recommendations and say, go visit the hub. If I'm there, great. If I'm not, you have other people, other talented people that call it home. So it's full of wholesalers. There's 3 different wholesalers, licensed agents, licensed general contractors. There's an Airbnb resource. I'm trying to get a lender in there. It's just a place that I can feel good about. That, yes, it is attracting deals for me. I probably get 1 deal a month because I have it and it's something we talk about. But more importantly, it is serving the community. We have given back to the community. It's a place where we do donations, right? We gave back to the food bank a couple of different times. We're hosting seminars there and events just to give back. And it's something I feel really good about. And it's just starting. I think the hub is bigger next year than it is today, and bigger the year after that and the year after that, because it's a unique concept. Nobody at the hub works for me. I will never have an employee, ever. These are all individual companies. They all do their own thing. I certainly qualify them, and if they don't meet my expectations, they get removed. right? Because I am the
Mm-hmm.
freaking owner. But that is what's important to me. And, that's what we're doing there. So that's what the hub is for me.
Okay. So while we got our listeners on the call here and on YouTube, Facebook, and everything like that, what do you need at the hub? What are you? I know you mentioned you're looking for a lender. Share with us what else you need. Maybe some people you can attract what you need right here.
Oh, that would be awesome. I think the number one thing that would be awesome to add to the hub is a private money or hard money lender. Because again, we're bringing lots of flippers and wholesalers and investors to the community. And it would be great to point at a lender and say, hey, and the lender needs to be able to do fixer uppers. It needs to be able to do these other pieces, not just owner occupant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We could attract a lot of business. There's a lot of deals being done through the hub. So that would be really cool. I'd love to see another real estate agent, licensed agent there. That would be really cool. Because again, we're getting a lot of people that want to buy from out of the area. I don't go to Fresno. I go to Fresno a couple of times a month, but I could send people there from all over to come check out and buy there. So those are the first couple of things. If I had an insurance agent, that'd be cool.
Okay.
So there's lots of things that would make the hub increase in value, I think.
Okay. So guys, if you're in the Fresno area and you're a hard money lender, if you're a real estate agent, or if you're a real estate insurance agent, reach out to Mike, so you could be a part of the hub. I was watching his YouTube channel, see what he was doing, and it looks like it's, amazing, something that he's doing, for the community. And it's definitely a resource for you if you're an agent, a lender, a real estate insurance agent. So Mike, we're going to roll into our hot seat questions, but before we do that, tell me about briefly, because we're going to talk about it at the end, your book, One Rental at a Time.
Yeah, the book One Rental at a Time was written right after I left the workforce, and it was written because I wanted a complement to Rich Dad Poor Dad. Mm-hmm. As we said very early on, Rich Dad Poor Dad doesn't tell you how. It doesn't tell you a journey. So I wrote this from the aspect of, okay, Rich Dad Poor Dad started my journey, but what did the 15 years look like? So we wrote about all the good stuff, all the bad stuff, how we went from a single house that the Norris Drive story is in there where the tenant was a problem. We talk about 1031 exchanges. We talk about the crash. We talk about apartments. So it's our journey. And it's not meant to be a how-to book. Don't buy it as a how-to book. It's, hey, this couple read Rich Dad Poor Dad, took a shot, and here is their path, their journey to financial freedom. That's all it is.
Great. So I'll make sure I link One Rental at a Time, the book, and the show notes. So let's roll into our hot seat questions. We are going to put Mike on the hot seat real quick. So Mike, I want you to answer these questions as quick as possible because you're on the hot seat. Starting over, what would you do different?
Starting over, I would look at Fresno earlier. I wasted a year looking in the Silicon Valley because all the books said invest where you live. And I live in a ridiculously expensive part of the country, and that year was wasted.
Okay. And then what is your greatest commodity outside of capital?
Commodity, I would say my network. I think your network is your net worth. I think it's more about the people that know you than instead of it's really the people that know you. That's where many of my deals come today.
Sweet. So what drives Michael Zuber's ambition?
My ambition now is not fancy, right? I still live below our means. My goal now is to help people see that real estate investing, specifically buy and hold real estate investing, could be a path to a better future.
Okay. And what do you believe is your greatest challenge, via internal or external challenge?
I believe social media celebrates the quick wins. They celebrate the big checks, and that stuff for the most part is fake or doctored. I want to create long-term wealth, and it's hard to compete with a slow path when everybody's flashing checks and flexing on social media, which I don't do.
Absolutely. It's you go on Instagram and that's all you see is people flashing fancy cars, money, and everything like that. But the truly successful take the long approach, to wealth. So what do you believe is one characteristic an investor needs to have in order to be successful?
Discipline. When I think back to what made us successful in Fresno after all these years, is the fact that I still look at my market every day. I'm not an agent. I have no special access. It's just the fact that I look at my market every day for 10 to 15 minutes means that I can identify a deal faster than most people.
Great.
That's my unique trait.
Great. So, Mike, I want to thank you, man. You would definitely provided some insight for me. I'm in the midst of that transition from single family units. I'm at 8 and I'm looking to go into multifamily right now. So it was definitely an inspiration for me. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, albeit selfishly, but some people are in a similar position and they need to hear from you as well, man. I want to appreciate what you're doing with the hub, one rental at a time, which I'll link in the show notes. How can we get in touch with you, Mike? Where can we find you? I know you mentioned YouTube.
Yeah, I would say the best place to find me is on my YouTube channel called One Rental at a Time. I provide original content every single day. That's where I would go.
I can definitely vouch for that. I was on his YouTube on yesterday. And guys, you have to check it out. It's some really, really good information there for you. So give me the URL to your YouTube channel, Mike.
It's just youtube.com/one rental at a time.
Okay. So that's youtube.com/one rental at a time, guys. I'll make sure I have that in the show notes for you. That way you can reach out to Mike. Again, if you guys are in the Fresno area and you want to be a part of the hub, contact Mike. I'm pretty sure you can leave him a comment on his YouTube channel and he's very responsive. He'll get back to you. So Mike, any last parting words here?
No, Marcus, I just want to thank you for what you're doing, giving back, being an inspiration to others. That's really what it's about, is celebrating what we're doing and try to help others. It warms my heart to see folks like you just giving back, and I appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike. So again, guys, wrapping up here, always remember to enjoy the journey. Go and check out One Rental at a Time. Go and check out the hub. If you're in Fresno and you're not connected with Mike, something is wrong with you. So get connected, and we'll see you next week on another episode. All right, guys, that was Mike Zuber from Fresno, California. Well, he invests in Fresno. He's from the Bay Area. So very key information that was given in this episode. We talked about single family rentals. We talked about mindset shift, going from single family to multifamily. We talked about financing. We talked about how to raise private capital. A lot of information in here, guys. Before I let you go, always remember that you can leave us a 5-star review. It helps us, get ratings, and it helps us give the content that you're looking for, out there directly to you and your ears. So feel free to reach out to us, leave us a comment, leave us a rating or a review. You can always find me at MRCS Maloney everywhere on social media. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So I welcome talking to you again. If you're looking for free purchase contracts, assignment agreements, a 15-minute free consultation with me, go to the website, marcusemaloney.com. That's MARCUS, E as in equity, Maloney, MALONEY.com. Remember to enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to today's show. I picked up some great actionable items, and I'm sure you did as well. If so, let me know. You can always reach me via social media at facebook.com/MRCS Maloney, Twitter at MRCS Maloney, and of course, IG at MRCS Maloney. You can also always reach me via email at mmaloney@equityri.com. Make sure you reach out to our guests as well. You can always find their contact information in the show notes below. If you have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Join the family. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review. This is how we tell if we're providing you with what you need for your journey. If there's someone you would like for me to interview, or if there's a subject matter you would like for me to cover, please let me know. Finally, if you're looking for additional information about real estate investing, go to equityrealestateblog.com. Also, youtube.com/Marcus Maloney. Until next time, family, always enjoy the journey.